We're installing a plug-and-play OEM remote-activated remote starter on a 2020 Chevy Silverado. Our system will be able to be activated by pressing the lock button 3 times or by pressing lock, unlock, lock for silent activation. I'm going to go ahead and get started with the installation. All of our Warm Car Now plug-and-play remote starting kits are complete kits. This kit will either ship with the FlashLink 4 programmer, the FlashLink Lite programmer, the appropriate cables, an Evo All, a T-harness with a kill switch, and wirecolor.com cards along with connectors and zip ties for any optional connections. At this point, you're going to want to unplug your Evo device. We're going to go ahead and we're just going to pop out this fuse box panel here. There's not a fuse box behind it, but there's information about the fuse box that I believe is under the hood. So we're just going to go ahead, we're going to pop this off. And you see it's got some fuse box information. Okay, so our BCM is located right here. We're going to be interrupting the first 3 plugs on the BCM. They're color coded and the colors match the harness. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to drop the harness down from the top, from the location we're actually going to zip up the unit at. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to put the harness down through this cover that we removed, and we're going to route it around underneath the dash. So we have our harnesses routed. We're going to go ahead and we're going to unplug the first plug, or the white plug, on our BCM. So there's a release clip. If you look at it, we're going to push the release clip in and unplug the plug. We're going to take our white plug that we have from our T-harness, we're going to go ahead and we're going to plug it into the BCM. And I'm going to give you a close-up. So the white plug is the first plug. Now we're going to take our white plug that we've unplugged from the BCM, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to plug it into our T-harness plug. Going to make sure it clicks and locks. Next plug is our blue plug. Going to go ahead, we're going to unplug the blue plug, press the release clip, remove the plug. We're going to make sure that we're not tangling up our plugs. So at this point we can route the blue plug where we want it so that we're not having a bunch of crossed wires when we're done. So we're going to take the blue plug end and we're going to plug it into the BCM. And again, very important that it clicks and locks. If they don't click and lock, they're not plugged in all the way. And it should require no force. They should plug in nice and smooth. So now we're going to plug the blue plug in to our BCM plug, and we're left with the last plug, which is the green plug. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to unplug the green plug, and we're going to route the plug around so there is no tangled wires, or tangled harnesses, I should say. Okay, so we're going to plug our green plug in, and we're going to plug into our green plug. Now we're left with 3 plugs right here. We can easily attach them underneath the dash up here with a zip tie and keep them out of the way while still being very accessible. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to start programming the module, or pairing it to the vehicle. On the top of our device we have a program button. We're going to be using this program button and the 4-pin data plug over here to get this module in program mode to accept the pairing of this vehicle. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to hold the program button down while we plug in the 4-pin data plug on our harness. When we do this, the lights on the front are going to begin to cycle. There's a blue, a yellow, and a red light. We want to release when we have a solid yellow light. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to hold the button down, we're going to plug in our 4-pin plug. Our lights are going to begin to cycle. As soon as we see a yellow light, we release the button. So the yellow light's the center light. Light's yellow, we release the button. If we screw up this step or something happens where we don't release on yellow, you can unplug it. We can do the procedure again. And for as long as you have the button down, the lights will cycle. So if you miss it the first time, you can have the button, held down. It could go around a couple times. You could release on the second time if you miss it the first time. So we're going to hold the button and plug it in. There's a yellow. We're going to release. Okay, now we're going to be very conscious not to touch the button. If we touch the button, then you got to unplug it and redo the release on yellow. So we're not going to touch the button. We're going to go ahead and we're going to plug in our white plug, the bottom, a red plug, and we're going to plug in the 20-pin plug. That's the biggest plug or the longest plug on the unit. So at this point, we're ready to continue on to the next step. At this point, we'll need the key to the vehicle. We're going to press and release the program button 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Our yellow light's going to alternate between 5 flashes and a pause. We're going to wait for it to go solid. When the light goes solid, we're going to place the key in the ignition and turn it to the run position. When we do this, the yellow light's going to go off, the red light's going to turn on. We're going to shut the key off, remove it completely from the ignition, and wait 5 seconds. 4, 5, put the key back in, turn it to run. We're going to have the blue light turn on. We're going to have the yellow light flash. It's going to go out. We're going to wait until the blue light comes on and flashes rapidly. At this point, now listen carefully, if you do not have OnStar, you press and release the program button. If you do have OnStar, like this vehicle, you shut the key off and remove it from the ignition. The blue light is going to flash slowly. At this point, we're going to disconnect our module. We're going to start by disconnecting the red plug, the white plug, the 20-pin plug, and the last plug we're going to remove is the 4-pin data plug. We're going to go to the computer and complete the vehicle pairing process. Okay, you're going to want to download the free FlashLink Manager program from Fortin. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to have our Windows 10 computer. It cannot be done on a Mac or Android. Windows 10 is the preferred operating system. If you have Windows 7, the machine has to be completely updated or the program will not function correctly. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to go to www.ifar.ca. We're going to select the Support tab, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to select the FlashLink Manager. We're going to click Download Now. We're going to agree to the end user license, and we're going to save the program. When the program is downloaded, you're going to open up the downloaded file. Oh, here we go. And you're going to follow the prompts. We're going to open the program. To create an account, if you do not have one, click Create Account and follow the steps, create the account, respond to the email that Fortin's going to send you, and then you'll be able to log in using the credentials that you set up the account with. Remember, if you don't get the email, check your spam folder. I've opened up the FlashLink Manager program, and the screen is indicating that the PC is unable to detect the FlashLink updater. Well, we don't have it plugged in yet, so this is correct. At this point, we're going to go ahead and we're going to plug our FlashLink 4 device in. If we have a FlashLink Lite, we're going to go ahead and we're going to plug that into our USB port. So I'm going to go ahead and plug it in, and we're going to wait. We're going to watch the screen. When we plug in our device, the FlashLink Manager is going to detect it, and the screen's going to change, and it's going to tell us that we do not have a module connected. This is correct, as we have not yet plugged our module in. Now, this is the FlashLink Lite. You have a USB cable that plugs into this end right here, and then you have the program cable that's going to connect. So at this point, we're going to plug our module into whichever programmer we have. We're going to do this at the 4-pin plug that we've been using to program our device. We're going to go ahead and we're going to plug it in. Now when we do this, the program is going to detect the module. It's going to work the same whether you have the FlashLink 4 or the FlashLink Lite. That is up to this point. I'm going to show you the next step that may be different. So right here, I've already flashed a device for a vehicle within this platform, which is all the years that this harness will cover. So you don't have to change this if it's not the exact year of your vehicle. If you provided information and we caught the information, then we may have the exact year and model of your vehicle, but it's really not important. It just has to use the same firmware. So right now, we have our program up, and this is what your screen should look like. If your screen does not look like this and you're using the FlashLink 4, then you're in wizard mode. You're going to want to click this gear cog up here, and you'll have a selection that says go to Pro mode. You're going to want to select that, and you're going to want to continue on to Pro mode. I don't have that selection for some reason, but I am a shop, so my account may be different. They may not give us wizard mode. So if your screen doesn't look like mine, you select this settings gear cog, select go to Pro mode, and the unit will kind of reload, and you'll have this screen right here. So once you get to this screen, we're going to go to the decryptor option. Keep in mind, if you have the FlashLink Lite, I don't think that you can have the wizard mode either. So you can only have this mode in the FlashLink Lite. So we're going to click decryptor. We're going to go down here, and we're going to click send data. We're going to wait. This is the screen we're going to have. We're going to make sure that box is checked. It is checked by default, and I may cut out some of this process for video purposes to keep the video shorter, but I'm going to try to leave it on throughout the full decryption process. Sometimes it can take a couple of minutes. So just make sure that you're patient, and we're going to wait. When the decryption process is complete, the module will be loaded, and the screen will indicate that the process is complete and the module is ready to be used. So we're going to wait for this to happen. And here we go. Our unit is updating now. We're going to wait until the update is complete. And again, this time varies for this process to complete. Okay, the decryptor process is complete. The decryptor has finished processing the data. The module has been updated and is ready for use. You can now disconnect the module and reinstall it in the vehicle and complete the remote starter installation. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to disconnect our module, and we're going to go back to the vehicle. We've ran the decryption process. We're back at the vehicle. We're going to go ahead and we're going to plug our module in. First thing we're going to do is we're going to locate the 4-pin plug. We're not going to be holding the button. We're just going to plug in the 4-pin plug first. If everything's correct, nothing should turn on. We're going to go ahead, we're going to plug in the white plug, the red plug, and then we're going to plug in the 20-pin plug. Okay, at this point, we're ready to test the remote starting of the vehicle. I'm going to go ahead and do that. We're going to activate remote starting by pressing lock 3 times. Notice the horn honk on the second and third press. The vehicle will start and will run for 30 minutes. That is the preset run time. We can shut the vehicle off also by pressing the lock button 3 times. The keyless entry remains functional while the engine is running. We're going to go ahead, we're going to set our unit to lock, unlock, lock for silent remote start activation. So if you want to change your module to activate silently, you can go ahead and go back to the computer with the FlashLink Manager up and running and the programmer plugged in and detected. We're going to plug in our module. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to let the program open up here and show us the options. So now this is going to apply to make your vehicle lock, unlock, lock activation, or if you have a diesel, or if you want to change the run time. There's some parameters you don't want to change. I'm going to show you what you can change. Okay, so we're going to turn our setting protections off, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to scroll down. Okay, so we're going to get to the standalone option group. We're going to press this arrow, and right here we have an option for lock, unlock, lock. If you look down here, our module is set for lock, lock, lock with 30 minutes. So we're going to go ahead and select lock, unlock, lock. And if we have a diesel, we're going to select diesel mode and we're going to turn it on. This truck's not a diesel, so we're not going to do that. If it was a diesel, we could turn on the diesel option. This will give us a glow plug delay before the engine cranks. And again, it changes the runtime right here. It makes the 15-minute runtime 30 minutes. So, you know, you can use the runtime. If we want a diesel in 30 minutes, we would do that right there. So we have a gas engine, so we're going to turn that off. We're going to turn that off. We're going to turn back on the 30 minutes, and we have lock, unlock, lock set for our activation. Now down here, we're going to want our supported RF antenna kits on, which it should be by default, and we should have Fortin 2 selected, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to go up. We're going to turn the setting protection back on, and we're going to click Save. Now you want to turn the setting protections back on so that if we do a reset of the module, that our settings won't be lost. Everything will be retained in the module. We're ready to go ahead and unplug it and reconnect it to the vehicle to test lock, unlock, lock triggering. So if you look at the instructions, if your vehicle does not have OnStar and your locks do not operate while the engine's running, you may have to make these connections. So I'm going to show you how to identify the plugs and where you're going to make the connections. We're back under the dash. We're looking at the BCM. I turned the brightness down of the light so you can see the colors. If we're going to have to make the lock connections, they're done at the gray plug, which is the very end plug on the box. So we're going to go ahead and push the clip, and we can remove the gray plug. We can turn it around and we can match it up to the drawing. Remember that anytime we're orientating ourselves, the correct orientation is looking at the back of the plug where the wires enter, not at the front, but the back. And then checking the pins and making sure we have the colors at the pins indicated in the instructions. This is an indicator that we're on the correct wires. So I'm going to show you where lock and unlock is on this gray plug. So we're looking at the back of the plug where the wires go in. Our first wire that we're going to identify is the lock wire. So if we have the clip on this side and we're looking at the plug from the back, our lock wire is going to be this yellow with a purple stripe located right here at this pin. So now if we're looking for our unlock wire, we're looking at the back again with the clip orientated in the correct position. We're looking at this wire right here, which is brown with purple. These are the only two connections that will be on this plug that you may or may not need to do, depending on whether or not the vehicle is equipped with the OnStar system. If you have OnStar, you do not need them. If you do not have OnStar, you may need them. The unit will have the wires labeled lock and unlock on them, so it'll be real clear on which wires to connect here. I'm going to show you a sample connection using the posi tap connectors that are supplied with your kit. We're going to go ahead and to make our connection, we're going to unscrew the posi tap. We have a piece with a groove. We're going to separate, and we have a piece with a needle. So we're going to locate our target wire, which in this case is going to be our yellow with purple. And again, this is just an example of how these connections are made. So we'll isolate the wire we need. We'll slide the piece with a groove on it over the wire, or put the wire in the groove. And we're going to take the piece with the needle, and we're going to screw it back on, making sure that it threads on smoothly. If you cross thread it, it's not going to hit the wire correctly, and it's not going to make a connection point. When we screw the connector down, it's going to pierce the wire. We don't have to over tighten them, just crank them down so they're tight. Don't go crazy. Now, to make our incoming connection, we're going to loosen this collar about a turn. We're going to take our incoming wire from our lock harness. We're going to strip about 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch off, so we have bare wire. Now we're going to put the wire in the collar. We're going to push it down. You'll feel it'll bottom out when we initially put it in. You're going to push down a little deeper. It will go in a little deeper, and that's the wire spreading around the cone that it's going to tighten against. So now we're going to tighten the collar, and we've just made our connection without really hurting the wire. So you'll get 2 of these connectors. I'm going to show you one other possible connection that you could make to unlock the tailgate lock if we're using an RF antenna kit and we want to do it from that, or a smartphone or something like that. So I'm going to just take this connector off, they're reusable. I'm just going to show you that it doesn't really do much to the wire. So there's the wire. It's got a little pin prick in it. There's no insulation gone. You can hardly tell it was there. You'd have to have a microscope to be able to tell. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to show you the very last connection that you could possibly make on this system. And again, it's not required in all scenarios. In some scenarios, so I want to show you where it is. So in the instructions, there's a tailgate release connection shown here. I'm going to show you where that is. So I'm back under the dash with the lights down low. And our second possible connection for the tailgate release is at the pink connector, right next to the gray connector. So the pink connector is right here. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to release the pink plug. Again, we're going to orientate ourselves just like the picture, clip in the same position that way, and I'm going to show you where the wire that you would connect to is for this function. So we're on the pink plug, and this vehicle does not have the option, so the wire is not present. So if we were to connect it, we would be right here and this pin here. Okay, so it's right here. And we don't have a wire present, so on this vehicle, obviously we don't need it, we can't connect it. But if your vehicle has this and requires this connection, you can go ahead and locate the wire here. And again, this connection would only be used from like an aftermarket remote, cell phone controller, that you wanted to be able to control this tailgate release. So we've completed the basic installation. Now if you're interested in an upgrade, it's going to show you a couple of the things. You can use the My Car. I have another video that shows how to program a My Car to an Evo All, and no matter what the vehicle is, this will program the same. I'll put a link to the video in the description. That video also covers the introduction of the RFK411 and the RF642W. So again, in the description, if you're interested in adding these 2 things, you can do that. And we have another remote that we're going to program to our system. Okay, you're looking at the RF antenna kit category of my Warm Car Now website. You can search Google to find it. We're going to program the RFK411 two-way RF antenna kit. Now, every antenna kit that I'm showing you right here is compatible, and I have the programming instructions for each one of them. There's one-way options and two-way options. Some of the two-way options are pretty pricey. The one-way options can be used as an economical solution to obtain long-range starting. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to program the RFK411 two-way remote with over a mile of range. Okay, so we've got our RFK411 two-way remote with over a mile of range, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to plug our antenna into our device. So we're going to look at our harness. We're going to have a blue port opened. We're going to plug our blue end from our antenna cable into our blue port. Okay, so if your harness doesn't have a blue port, we supply a coupler that will give you this blue port. So there'll be an extra port to plug into. So we'll go ahead and we're going to get started with the programming. So these are the two remotes. They're capable of locking, unlocking, and starting the vehicle from the single button controller. To begin the procedure, we're going to unplug the 4-pin plug. We're going to hold the program button down while we plug in the 4-pin plug. We do this, the lights on the front are going to begin to cycle. We're going to release when we have the blue and the red LED both lit. At this point, we release the button, the lights will stay blue and red. So now we're going to press and hold the button down. The blue and the red light will go out. We'll keep the button down until they come back on. When they come back on, we'll release the button. At this point, we'll need the key to the vehicle. We're going to place the key in the ignition and turn the ignition to the run position. At this point, you'll see the LED blinking on the antenna. We're now going to take our first remote. We're going to press and hold the button down for the remote. We're going to keep the button down until the light blinks and comes back on. We're going to wait. And then we're going to release the button. The remote is going to program at that point. We're going to repeat the procedure with the second remote. We're going to press the button and hold it. We're going to keep the button down. And now I'm keeping the button down this whole time. I've still got it down. Don't let it up. Keep the button down even though there's no lights. We're waiting for the blue light to come back on. And then we're going to release the button. The remote is going to program. So we've programmed two remotes. We're now going to shut the key to the vehicle off and remove it from the ignition. We're outside of our vehicle with our RFK411 remote. We're going to go ahead and we're going to lock the doors. We're going to press and release the button one time. This will send a lock command and the doors will lock. We're going to unlock our vehicle. We're going to press and release the button 2 times. This will unlock the vehicle. To start the vehicle, we're going to press and hold the button. We'll let it up after about 3 seconds and the vehicle start. And notice we're getting a confirmation for each of the commands that we've sent. Now, as the vehicle is running, the LED will indicate this by blinking the blue light every so many seconds. I don't know if you've caught that, so it should happen again. We'll wait. There it goes. Okay, so we're going to press and hold to shut the vehicle off. And we have the red light on the remote indicating the vehicle is shut down. So again, we'll lock the doors, 1 press. We'll unlock the doors, 2 presses. If you add an RF antenna kit or smartphone controller, you retain the ability to activate the remote starter from the OEM remote. So you could use both the OEM remote and the aftermarket controller. We're outside the vehicle and I'm going to demo the RFK411. This is an economical one-way solution to obtain long-range starting with our system. So this will do the same thing the 912 will do. The only thing is the range isn't as far. It's about 2,000 feet, and there is no confirmation that the commands have been received by the vehicle. So we're going to lock the doors. We're going to unlock the doors by pressing twice. And we're going to start the vehicle with press and hold. Now this will obtain silent starting with this remote, because you're not pressing the lock button 3 times to start the vehicle. So remember, keep in mind, I've already told you that I have the programming instructions on a separate video. There's a link in the description that shows how to program the RFK411, the RF642W, and the MyCar smartphone controller. Look for the link in the description if you're interested in adding these to the Evo All. Remember, the ability to start from the OEM remote is retained no matter what controller you pair with our device. To stick the antenna on, we're going to go ahead and remove the tape from the antenna. We're going to put the antenna on the windshield in the spot where we want it. I'm keeping it on this side of the mirror so I don't have to go by this through the headliner here. So now what we're going to do is we're going to pull down on the headliner a little bit while we feed the wire up in. So we don't want to make any marks on the headliner. So you can grab it with your fingertips in here. Work your fingers over a little bit. We're going to go ahead, we're going to get the antenna wire up in here. We're going to make sure it's going up in. And then we're going to put the wire in and work it over to the A-pillar where we're going to continue on down to meet the Evo. So it may be a little hard to see. It's kind of hard to get the shot. I just pulled it down a little bit and it looks great. There's no marks. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to continue down the A-pillar. Once we get the wire over the edge, we're going to use our plastic tool to get the wire under the trim without causing any damage. At this point, we're going to go ahead and we're going to fold the trim back. We don't want to remove this either. We just want to sneak the wire down. We're going to go ahead and we're going to run the wire down underneath the weather stripping or the gasket, door gasket. Get to this point, we'll use our plastic tool, tuck the wire behind the dash. So we have a little bit of the wire here that we'll tuck in. The wire will be now behind our dash piece where we can run it over to the Evo. This is the zip up location that I chose. I used the long zips in my kit and did the zip up right here. When I put the side panel back on, nothing's going to interfere. I don't have any harnesses running up underneath the dash by the pedals or anything. Everything looks pretty good under here. There's our harnesses and everything else is factory.